Hello, hello, Edson Oliveira here. Welcome for another, the second one, TADUG user group meeting. And good afternoon for the ones that are here with us. And today I have a full agenda for us to go through. Okay, so let's go through some acknowledgements, some announcements. Let's go around the group, even if it's, whether it's a small group or bigger group online here, but let's go around the group. And then let's go to the main presentation with my good friend, Joe Craig, about structured content in DNN. And then we do our meeting wrap up. So let's start by doing some acknowledgements from our user group. First of all is that we got a few sponsors at this point. So I've approached a few organizations within the DNN space, and some of them, they very nicely came forward with some sponsorships for our user group. So the first one is DNN for Less, and I want to thank specifically Jesse Haggerty. Jesse, thank you very much for helping us out here. So DNN for Less is a hosting company in the DNN space, and also one of the module skin providers in the theme providers in the DNN space, which is Easy DNN Solutions. And again, I want to thank Damir Kapustik from Easy DNN Solutions coming forward and helping us out here on our user group. Okay, so those were some of the few announcements. Yep. Now, let me go to the second announcement here. The second announcement is that, enticed by our friend Clint Patterson, who's here right now, and I keep looking all different places because I have many monitors to follow through. So he recommended that I had a look at how to join the .NET Foundation. So I, had a look, saw a form there that we can submit our meetup, and they accepted us. So now TADUG is also part of the .NET Foundation. What does that mean? I mean, what? And I guess that maybe Clint, you can give your 2 cents. But as far as I understood, what it means is, one, we get promoted on their meetup page where they, aggregate 138 groups. So we get promoted there. And now I have a cell phone here ringing that I have to turn off. Sorry about that.
Somebody joining the meeting.
I guess in a different way. So I guess that one of the first thing is that we get promoted on their main page, and the second thing is that, and I have to check that. And Ryan, maybe you can chime in here, but it seems that they cover some or all of our costs on the Meetup platform. I don't know. I have to check that, but I still need to confirm. Is that right, Ryan?
I can't claim first-hand knowledge with that. On our team, David was the one who secured that for us, but that is my understanding, is that a primary benefit for us, and it's not a terrible cost, but it's something that we're paying attention to every month. That meetup cost is a bit of something. So between that and bringing in new people and new awareness, that's a really good benefit.
Yep. So we're now part. Not that it was that hard. I mean, I'll be honest here. Not that it was that hard to join it. I mean, I filled out the form, and a week later we got it. So, but again, hey, we are there. Good. It's another announcement here. Now, let's see here. Okay, so this is an announcement from one of our group members. Paul. Do you want to talk a little bit about SQL grid selected view for us?
Yeah, this is a bit of a surprise. No, as many of you know, I produced this grid tool many years ago, and one of the benefits of using DNN is it has stayed absolutely stable all the way up until DNN version 9.2, which broke it. And to be honest, that was expected when you realize that they finally did some cleanup on the deprecated calls and things like that. It basically highlighted the fact that I hadn't done any work on it for a while. And there's a new version of the zip library also that needed to be built, bound in. So I have created a new version of that. For anybody who's interested, I can send them a copy. I used to have a subscription for this, but at the moment I don't. It is somewhat dated, but it still works, and I use it every day. I have a site that has 145 copies of it running. So it's so there's a new version. It's the same release version 5.10, version 5.10, but it is recompiled against the DNN 9.9 version, 9.2 version, and so there's a small tweak to the CSS classes also to take advantage of the new environment. So just to clean up a few little things like that, but functionality is not changed since the 5.510 release that I did several years ago. So.
Paul, and let me ask you this: what is the module about? I mean, again, I know what is it about, but describe it a little bit more.
It is basically a tool in which you can provide an SQL select statement to pull data out of a database, and I will then wrap the result and allow you to display it in a nice format. The features that one of the things that's handy about it is that it allows you to inject what I call filters into the SQL clause so that you can add things like date ranges and selections on individual checking for values and things like that. And for example, the canonical example is the Northwind database and being able to say show all the select star from products, and then let the tool itself add the where clause in which you say where product name equals, and you provide that as an input, and I give you a box on the screen in which you can put the input on. So Joe is a master at it, so he's been playing with it for quite a long time, and I have a small following of people who are using it on various DNN sites. So
awesome. So
yeah, it is a super module, and yeah, kind of the canonical usage is you do a query, you get a table, and you put a nice, pretty table on the screen. But you can also build your own displays around it, and your SQL select doesn't have to be a select. You can run a stored procedure to get interesting forms of data, and then with your customized display, and then with some jQuery magic, you can really have fun with this thing.
Joe's gotten way off in the weeds. I'm more generic in the way I use it, but yeah, it's and basically it'll work with any database that has a connection string. So, and I owe my the startup of it was way back when with DNN stuff, and they had a little SQL grid, and that's why I added the selected view to the name. So SQL grid selected view is the filtering clause that's on it. So anyway, if I had known you were going to do this, I would have had a little something ready, but.
No problem. I always like to surprise people, and again, we can talk about the module, more details, and even do a formal presentation in a future meetup, Paul.
Yeah, all right then. Thank you.
Okay. So, what else do we have here? I want to just do a a call out there for anyone that wants to give a hand, wants to help, anyone local, anyone in Canada, or anyone not in Canada, but anyone that wants to contribute and give a little bit of time to putting our site together. Now we have EasyDNN Solutions as one of the sponsors, and they left open for us to use any one of their modules, any one of their themes as well. So again, I would like to have another set of hands to give me a hand here with TADUG.org, which we're going to be putting together and pushing forward, making it live within the next 30 days. By the next meeting, by the next meetup, I intend to have this up and running. So again, if anyone wants to come forward and give a helping hand there, it would be great. I'll leave it open. I'll not I'll not ask right away for anyone to come forward. I'll leave it open. Reach out to me, during the next week or so, and if you are interested, and then we can start working together to get the website up and running as well, so we can have a home outside of meetup.com, because right now we don't have a place yet. Okay, that's about it. Let me see here. Okay, group time. Okay, so this is what I had in mind, and tell me, guys, if this makes sense, if you want to do this. Actually, I'm not giving an option here. We're gonna do this. I want to ask around. Just go around and ask, what are you doing lately? What have you been doing lately with DNN? And there are some folks here that we know what they are doing roughly. At least we think that we know. But anyway, let's go around, and I'll be the last one telling you guys what I'm doing. Let's start with Paul. What have you been doing lately with DNN? Okay, I can hear you.
You can hear me, but you can also hear a dial tone.
Not really.
Oh, I do. There it goes. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, very far. I seem to to have a bit of noise, but that's fine. I can hear you perfectly.
Oh, well, to be honest, the last little few things I've been doing with DNN is just playing with DNN 9.2, getting to use with it, and setting up my development environment to actually do the work that I just talked about with the module, and setting that back up and getting it stabilized. So that's been the main area in which I've been working on, and trying to get that feel back to getting both IIS and the various sites working, so I can do the breakpoint work that I need. And luckily, the old way I did it still seems to work, and without very many changes. So most of the people here are longtime DNNers, so I don't really have to go into how it's done. But yeah, it's if anybody's interested, I can show them how I started it up, and it's very similar to what you've seen in a lot of the other blogs doing it. But I use something that is actually from a long time ago, playing around in the DNNs, actually in the project space of the Visual Studio, in that when you actually do a rebuild, it actually copies the information out of your development world and pushes it into your site that you're testing against, and it allows me to then set breakpoints live, and I don't have to do much work out of that. So it works quite well. So.
Got it. I mean, you reminded me, Paul, that I just posted today a question about DNN, and what is your module recipe? What are the technologies that you are using on DNN module development right now? I mean, what is it that you use for the backend? I mean, is it MVC? Is it traditional? Is it what is it? Is that Razor? Is that SPA? What about the front end? Are you using Angular? So again, you should check out that question and maybe record a quick response there. Again, I'll send you the link. I'll send you the link later.
All right, thanks.
Okay. So let's see here. Let's go with Clint. Are you still there, Clint? Clint.
Yes, I'm still here. Just didn't want to make you guys watch me scarf this food out.
What have you been doing lately with DNN? What is it?
All right, so I have been doing a couple things with DNN lately. One of which is building out the partner directory, the new partner directory that everyone has heard about in the webinar,
Awesome.
and the DNN Digest, which we all read, right? But scheduling meetings with partners, new partners, and just getting everything configured. And also, every now and then, Ederson, I'll actually let my hair down and build a website. So I've just entered a URL in the chat, and you can bring that up. So I built a website for one of my childhood friends, one of my childhood friends' father. This guy is running for sheriff.
Whoa.
And so I designed it all in form and list. No, just kidding.
You're doing it all with one module, right?
Yeah, it's just all one module. No, so you'll notice this is running HTTPS, right? So this is using Cloudflare, and Andrew Heffling's blog. This was the site where he and I were implementing this. And it was like, if it's a sheriff's site, it's got to be secure, right? I'm like, well, we could try that. So, but one interesting thing we found was there was one setting, like the site would load, you could log in, but you could never edit, because when it went to pull up the editor, it would try to serve that under HTTP instead of HTTPS. And so there was like this one checkbox in Cloudflare that we had to check, and I can't even remember what it was now, but it's in his blog. But anyways, once we did that, then we were able to edit. But if you scroll down the page, Ederson, you'll see there's like, I've worked in some animations. We went and shot video. If you keep going, maybe the next section, yeah, like right there. It probably won't show in the video, but there's like animations going on. And
Got it. I think it's showing.
Yeah, it's just a little bit behind here on this end.
Oh yes, I get it. You cannot see on the screen sharing. I see it. Okay.
Yeah, but so I built essentially a skin for each page. I mean, I just kind of did this like the dirty and quick way, because the best thing about a sheriff's like election website is it's only got to be up until the election, and then it really doesn't matter, right? You turn it off, so you don't have a long term support with it. But if you click on the yard signs, like I tried to make it. Kind of a visual site, so to speak. And I'm trying to think if I used any, that actually is the form and list module there, just for a contact form. Voting locations, I did just a Google map, and this is all responsive, by the way. So if you load it up on mobile, it'll still work. It doesn't do the high-end images. And yeah, so this is one of the recent DNN projects here. I told the guys, like, it's not often that my skill sets actually cross paths with being able to like impact somebody's life for the positive, right? So we'll and during election season, they're trying to save as much money as they can, right? So I told them we gave them a hard time growing up. This is the least I could do.
Okay, but you're not doing anything shady there on Facebook, are you?
Oh no, I'm not. This is not Cambridge Analytica here. I'm not trying to make you vote a certain way. This is just me helping, my friend's dad out, essentially.
Question, Clint. You said that there was this setting on Cloudflare that you had to dig in and flip that switch. Have you documented that? Have you shared that, or is that a secret that you're keeping to yourself only?
No, that's what I was saying. Andrew Heffling, his blog, he posted the blog about
so that was that blogging about. Okay.
Yeah.
Also earlier in the year, last year, on SoFri, we did a session about SSL certificates and using Cloudflare, and it's also mentioned in the notes and video from SoFri from last year.
Awesome. That's
I did build it. I don't talk about it a lot, but every now and then I will do something.
You know, and because of this going viral, I mean, most likely he will be elected here, you know?
Yeah, he owes it all to you.
He's probably wondering why he's getting all these clicks from Canada, though.
Yeah. I don't recommend you try to look at that site for best practices. You'll just see a lot of JavaScript and random libraries being referenced.
So it won't go to the, what is that? To the gallery on DNN software?
No, because it'll be taken down here after November or whenever it is.
So it will not pass through your approval seal, correct?
No, I won't submit it and I won't pass it.
Okay. Okay, let's keep going around. Mike, what are you up to? I mean, what have you been doing with DNN lately?
I've been doing a few things lately. I actually tried a few new tools. Last couple of meetups I've been on, NB Quick Site, NB Quick Theme. We're hearing a lot about that, so I thought I'd give it a go. And just started using Quick Site last week. I've spun up about probably 4 DNN 9.2 sites. And, I'm pretty capable of spinning up myself. But geez, man, you push a button or two and, I can go do something else and I don't have to worry about it. It's pretty cool. So that was a good tool I used recently. And Quick Site, I didn't actually use it in the way it's meant to be used and build from it, but I just loaded up and pulled samples out of it for some other types of stuff I was doing to see how things were being built over here and incorporate a couple of the ideas into some of the skins I've already been building. So those two new tools I've used, which had some benefit, which is pretty cool.
Awesome. Great.
Yeah. Outside of that, I have a session that I put in for DNN Connect that was accepted on control panel I'm working on. So I'm pretty excited for that. So I got some planning ahead of me over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, you have to make sure that you get your stuff together before you travel.
Exactly.
Ryan, how about yourself? What have you been up to?
Okay, I'm off of mute. Well, hearing Mike's information, I think what I'll be up to for the next couple of weeks is bugging Mike so that we can please get to see a beta version of his control panel. So that's what I got ahead of me, I think. I don't know, past month or so, we've got a few different projects in for clients. In one, we're working within Xmod Pro to further flesh out and build out different features and functions to some company time tracking, project tracking type data records that we use internally for our own projects. And this client now needs it for their corporation to take weekly timesheets, record project information, and then also connect it in the back end with our digital asset management system, a DAM that we've built in DNN, built it as a service, as a software as a service platform based in DNN. And so we've been kind of fleshing out some more pieces there. Otherwise, in the last couple of weeks, we've been diving into more liquid content information. And I've been training and explaining some more things about liquid content and what you can and can't get out of those APIs to some clients. So I absolutely am looking forward to participating in listening to Joe here in just a little bit.
Ryan, so did I hear right that you are leaving Xmod Pro behind for liquid content? Are you abandoning Xmod Pro? So what is that? I mean, because you know that
snuck up on me fast enough that I didn't have a chance to have a poker face for whatever the answer was. No.
Say it ain't so. Say it ain't so.
Not an even possibility. There are certain things that you can get out of using liquid content that can be useful. That said, it's not necessarily the approach that I would envision doing. I can get those same things out of standard API and out of the local DNN database. But again, we'll kind of save some of that questions and differences to the session, because I'll want to ask some of those questions here down the road.
Hey, Drew, Ryan's decision on Xmod is directly aligned with or correlates with the quality of your presentation tonight on Two Sexy Content.
Okay. So I guess that it's me, last one here. I'm not sure if I'm gonna share. I'm not sure if I should share that, but I will share that. Don't tell that to Clint. Don't tell that to Clint. But I'm helping a client Again, Clint,
No.
you have to talk to a client. We are helping a client trying to move from
Don't say word mess.
what is that?
Don't say the word mess.
No. But it's anyway, we are trying to help as much as we can a client trying to move from a certain paid product to a certain open source product.
Yeah, that happens.
I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm just gonna leave it at that. And by the way, we are using a resource created by one of our friends here in this meetup, you know. Again, I'm just gonna leave it like that and move forward. Let's go to the main presentation here. Main presentation, Joe Craig, structured content, what, why it is useful. Let me present first. Let me read the bio of the guy behind this presentation. 1 second. Joseph Craig is the chief web architect at Petapsco Research Group. I know that it's not the right way to say.
Let me tell you a joke right in here. I was having a real problem the other night, and a certain hosting company, which does perfection in their work, misspelled Patapsco in some domain names, and it took me half a day to figure out what was wrong. It's Patapsco.
Okay, Patapsco. Okay. Group, a small consulting practice that he founded in 2006. Joe has specialized in DNN since that time and is deeply experienced in all things DNN. From site design to development, skinning, module development, and especially upgrading, debugging, and fixing broken DNN sites. Joe claimed that he has never encountered a DNN site that he couldn't fix or upgrade. But the jury is still out on a couple of notable exceptions. Joe has also provided support in the forums at DNN Creative Magazine, where he has posted over 11,000 messages. He hangs out occasionally on the DNN software site to provide help, and he is a regular participant in DNN Heroes monthly chat. He has been a DNN MVP since 2016. Is that 16 or 15, Joe?
Yeah, I couldn't figure it out. I had to go look at the award to figure it out.
That's fine. So he organized DNNCom in 2016. He was a founder of the DNN Association and was a member of the DNN Summit organizing committee for 2017 and 2018. That's it. I mean, a long intro here, but Joe, welcome, and it's all yours. I'm gonna make you presenter, and you can move forwards. Joe, if you want,
I'm writing my talk in the background. So let me just do that. Okay. And then
now we can see your screen now.
Now you should be able to see my presentation, right?
It's still loading here. Let's see. It's not refreshing yet. Well, it's a little bit stuck on your Alt tab. Okay, we can see it. Yeah.
Okay. So thank you. Let me just start by saying you left me out of the what have you been doing lately besides writing this talk. One of those upgrade sites that the jury is still out on has about 40 custom modules, and the data access layer for those modules was created by a product called In Tiers. And sometimes I am after working on the site, but I'm in the process of upgrading the site, and it's a version 7.3.2. Upgrading to the next, which I think is 7.4, breaks all of the modules because the In Tiers product needs to be upgraded. And instead of doing that, we decided to take the time to bring these custom modules into the DNN world as full-fledged DNN modules. So that basically means ripping out the In Tiers data layer and replacing it with a standard DNN data layer. And I'm actually doing that in DAO 2, figuring that may be the way of the future since it's only 6 years old. So I'm in the throes of doing that. You already heard all that about me. So let's talk about structured content. What is it? So I looked up a definition on the net, and it says structured content is content that is planned, developed, and connected outside of an interface so that it's ready for any interface. It treats content as data so that it makes sense to people and computers. So in other words, it can be anything you want it to be. But the way I think of structured content is essentially from a computer science point of view as object-oriented data. So basically, you build classes of data, you create instances of that class, and then you can use it. Since it's stored separately from anything that has to do with presentation, pretty much anything that can access that data can use it. So essentially, your content takes on a write once and publish often flavor. Aside from that, you by structuring the data elements that will show up on a screen, that provides a lot of help to content editors and also people who manage the content editors. And by that I mean the only thing that they need to do is enter the content and leave it to the web developer to get that onto the screen, so that someone who's editing content does not necessarily have to worry about how the data is going to be formatted. And in fact, this is another way that you could keep content editors from trying to format data. And it kind of provides a set of best practices to create content. And whether that content is going to show up on a website, on a phone, on some other device, is not important to the person who's creating the content. And I'm going to try and give you some examples to explain what these things mean. So we're going to create content items. So what might content items be? How about a blog post? How about a news article? How about employee data? An employee bio, a recipe, a menu item. I'm thinking a restaurant menu item as opposed to a menu item in a program. An entry in a catalog. Yeah, and it's possible that one content item can contain other content items. So you can, if you think in terms of object-oriented, there's an inheritance thing going on. In having information about people, for example, their address might be shared by multiple people. Say if you have family members, so you only enter the address once, but anyone who utilizes that address can use it. Now, in the world of DNN, we have several examples of things that provide structured content. Ryan mentioned liquid content, which is currently a feature of the Evoke products that build on the DNN platform. And the plan is to move liquid content down into the DNN platform, and the working time is sometime this fall. So there is some excitement about that. In the meantime, there are at least 2 modules that I'm aware of that are available right now for people who want to either experiment with structured content or just start using structured content. First one is a module called Open Content. And the second one is a product which used to be called Too Sexy Content, and they changed it to 2SXC because there was apparently trouble going in to see high-level executives at big organizations and tell them they should be buying Too Sexy Content. So they changed the name, but we all know what it really means. All of these are open source and free. That is to say, liquid content will be open source and free once it gets moved into the DNN platform. But this is wonderful in the sense that the financial barriers to entry are 0 for open content and Too Sexy, and will be for liquid content.
Joe, can I ask you a question,
yeah.
Joe?
Sure.
Okay. So one of the reasons why I used to use, and here and there I still use it quite a lot actually, Xmod Pro. The reason why I like, yes, Ryan, the reason why I like Xmod Pro is because I'm a developer, okay? So I can create a table on my own, and I can say, okay, I want my my data structure to look like this, and use this table to store the data. So I really like the Xmod Pro because I could tell it that. I could tell that I want to use that table. Now, I know that open content, you cannot do that. In open content, it has, a slightly different structure. However, my question is, and it's just a yes or no, you don't need to explain how, but Too Sexy Content, can it use, without too much effort, a data source that is a table within my database?
Yes.
Okay.
You said a one-word answer would suffice, right?
Okay, that's fine. So not a lot of effort to do that?
Not a lot of effort at all. And I will remind me at the end. But essentially, yeah, the answer is yes, with no restrictions. How's that?
Okay, that's awesome. That's
and
awesome.
You can use DNN tables. You can use tables created by modules that you install, or you can create your own tables within the database.
Awesome.
And you can access data that is in other databases that may not be your DNN database.
Okay.
And although I haven't looked into it, I believe that the answer is true for other forms of data. So if there's data that's available by a call to a web service, you can use that as well.
Awesome. Okay, thank you.
Okay, and so the question, why am I going to focus on too sexy content in this presentation? And it's a simple answer. It's one I started using and have some understanding of it. I'll just back up a bit and tell you that I got interested in the notion of too sexy content because in the past I had used products like OWS, Open Web Studio, and for a while there was a product called DNN Mushroom, and these were both touted as rapid development for building modules, and I kind of focused on DNN on too sexy in that regard, but it's different and more than that. So hopefully you'll get a feeling for that as we go on. I was impressed by Sean Walker's picture of the Titanic in his keynote at DNN Connect, so I went and looked for a good picture for too sexy. It has a ton of features, and I'm going to talk about a few of them that are above the water in this presentation, and just point out that there is a frightening amount of power and flexibility in the product that I'm going to ignore in this presentation, but maybe I'll allude to it later. When you, I'm going to go through some of this and then I'll attempt to do a demo. So if you install the Too Sexy module on your site, you will discover that it actually installs two modules that can be installed. One is called App and one is called Content. The Content type module, I think, is meant for some uncomplicated content. And the app is like a module on steroids that can be used for practically anything. I think that Content is an app with a bunch of features disabled. And I've discovered that taking something that started out as a content module and trying to convert it to an app module involved more work and thinking that I was willing to do. So if you get into this, ignore that one and use this one. This gets you everything, but you don't have to use everything. So maybe some of that will come along later on. So there are, if you've heard of liquid content, you've heard of data items and visualizers. In Too Sexy, these things are called content items and views. And there are some other things that I'm going to ignore, in particular things that provide you access to data that is somewhere else that I mentioned. Okay, so when you so the two parts of the process are to build your content structures or content items, and content items can be made up of a number of different fields. that include text or string fields, Boolean fields, date and time fields. Does any of this sound familiar? Number fields, links, other content items, which they refer to as entities. So, you could have a first name, a middle name, a last name, and an address, which is an entity. And you have another content type called address, which has street number, street name, city, state, zip code, etc. You can apparently build custom field types, and there is an empty field type. So this provides the data, and then the view is where the coding and HTML and CSS and other things comes into play. And there are actually two ways that you can build views. One is token-based. And for those of you who go back far enough in DNN, which I think is all of you, there is a way of building DNN themes that is token-based. And in the background, it gets compiled into the ASDX files. So with a token view, you include HTML, you put tokens that refer to content field items in the places you want those things to appear. The other way of building a view is using Razor templates. And this is a programming, Razor is a programming syntax for embedding server code in web pages or in terms of building it. Basically, the Razor runs on the server side to convert your coding into HTML that goes into the pages. It is an ASP.NET programming language for all intents and purposes. And as such, it has access to all of the DNN and other assemblies that live in your website. So you can basically start writing something that looks like C# code right into your web pages. And
Joe,
full program, yes.
quick question. So if I'm looking to build something simple without any logic, I mean, it's just displaying information, maybe I can use token because it seems to be, it looks like it's simple to use them. However, if I need to do something a little bit more complex, a little bit more sophisticated, that may have some logic behind the scenes, then I should go Razor. Is that correct? Is that fair?
That is correct. These days, I hardly ever use the token approach. I think that, and that has to do with because I'm used to using the Razor approach. But what I'm going to attempt to demonstrate to you is pretty much Razor templates. And I'll show you, I'm sorry, I'm going to show you token-based templates, and maybe I'll show you some Razor templates as well with some working examples. Okay, so I don't know if this is readable, but this is a token template, and this is a Razor template. So so here we have some, in the sense that this looks like HTML pretty much. So there's a link and a script. This is actually a template that displays an image slider. Okay, so we get it uses the BX slider. So here we're basically loading the CSS file for the BX slider. App:/tab tells you anything in square brackets is a token. So app path fills in the path to where this file lives. And here we're loading the BX slider JavaScript file. Here we have some style. If you were really doing this right, you'd have a CSS file, which you would load, and you would put all of this stuff in the CSS file. And then this block is the too sexy content token template that defines how the data is displayed. So there's a UL. There is a repeat structure, which is part of too sexy content. And we'll come back to this, but this is basically how you tell it that I want to do a repeat. Okay, so here I've got the UL, and I'm repeating list elements that will go in the unordered list. And this is saying, repeat this structure for every item of content that is in something called data default, and data::default is the default data stream that comes into this template. When you set it up, you tell the template where it gets its default data from. So this is basically a UL, a list item, another list item, another list item, another list item. And within each list item, there is a div. And within that div, there is a token called content::toolbar, which will display a toolbar when you're in edit mode, so you can fiddle with things. So that div is a tool. And then there's a div that includes two things. It includes content::image and content::title. So basically this list element is going to display an image tag that comes from the content that's assigned to this template, and then it's going to have some text. So you get an image, and beneath it, you get a line of text that can go with that image. And then, then down here is old JavaScript that basically says, take the UL that's in a class called BX slider and turn it into a slider. So this is what, if you took this out, you'd get a bunch of images displayed one after another with titles. And then if this operates, it starts rotating those images one at a time. Now, if you compare that to the Razor script, this is the same. This is all the same, and the JavaScript is the same. And the only difference is here. So the UL class is the same. Instead of a repeat thing, we're going to do a for each loop, and for each item that's in the default data for this template. So for each content item, this is all the same. The syntax for using the toolbar is slightly different. And instead of square bracket content::image, we say at cont.image, which basically refers to the object cont, which is taken from the default, and we get the image field, and we get the title field. So these basically do the same thing. The way that it works is when you're editing the template, there's a template editor that has all of the little pieces that you can plug in. It will even create the for each for you. So it's really nice to do. So now I'm going to just kind of walk through some examples on screen. So the first one is I want to display an image at the top of this page. So this was actually cut and pasted from a DNN page where there's a divider bar. Here's the DNN breadcrumb. This was on a page called Single Image. It was a child of a page called 2SXC. Now the content that we're feeding this thing, and this is taken from where you set up the content type. So I've created a content type called page banner image, and it has two fields. One is the title, which is a string. One is the image, which is a hyperlink to where the image is. And over here, I've created the content type, and I've actually created 5 instances of the page banner image. And this is just a repeat of the code that I showed you on the other page. This is a simplified version. We don't have the CSS and JavaScript files for the slider because this is not a slider. We've got much simpler CSS style, and there's no unordered list and list items. It's just a div with a toolbar and the image. Here I didn't include the title, so just the image is displayed here. If the image looks blurry on your screen, it's a blurry image intended to let you know those guys are moving fast. Okay, so essentially creating this content type and populating them, creating instances, and using this as the template. So this is your data, and this is your visualizer. And am I making sense?
Yeah, Joe, let me ask you a question. So you mentioned that one of the reasons to use structured content is that you can separate data from the visual aspect.
Correct.
Yeah, so is it possible on 2SXC content to have one piece of data being reused and displayed all over again on different pages?
Are you looking ahead in my presentation, sir?
Yes.
There's the next slide. Okay, and basically the answer is all that you do in this app is you create another visualizer. So this is the template or visualizer that displays a single image on the page. Okay, we have 5 images. Each image has a title and a picture. Here we're assigning one content item to this, and we're not using the text that goes with it. Okay, now over here, I've created a list, and I'm going to use the text item. So I've added a little bit more CSS. Okay, and now here I brought in the repeat. Okay, so this block is the code for the template for that page. And now if I just wrap it in a repeat token, these technically aren't tokens, but it's a structure that 260 content understands. If I just repeat that class in this tag, it's basically going to create one of these divs for each of the images that I assign to the app at this point. So here, I've assigned 3 images. Do you recognize this one? It's the same image. It's the same content item as appeared here. I've added 2 more to it. So it's the same data. I'm reusing it here differently than I'm using it here. So here I'm picking one of the images and displaying it. Here I'm picking 3 images and displaying those in a repeater. And
so Joe,
yes.
I'm gonna ask you this: Is this the same data, or is this, we have this data here which is 1 item, and this data here which are 3 items? Is it the same or they are different?
Okay, let me go back. We have one content type called page banner image. Okay.
Yep.
Think of this as a class. And here we have 5 instances of this content type. Each one has a different title and a different image. In this presentation, when I go to actually put the module on the page and configure it, this one will ask me for one of the instances of this content type. Okay. So
I got it.
at this point in the development, our app has 1 content type, 5 instances of that content type, and 1 template. When I come over here, I now have a second template which says repeat for every content item that is assigned to this template. If I had added just this content item, my list would be my repeat would be 1 item, and the only difference between here and here is that I've added the title part of the content item, so I would just see the image with first and a black bar under it. Because I said use 3, or I actually said use this one, and this one, this list gives me 3 items. And then if I bring in the rest of the code and put the UL class around these things and change the div to a list item and load the JavaScript stuff and fire off the JavaScript stuff, what you'll see here is because this is now converted to a slider, you'll see 1 image at a time, cycling through these 3 images. If I had 20 images back here, I would create 20 instances of the page banner type, and I'd have 20 images that I could add to the list, and you'd see 20 items here. And then if we switch to the slider, you'd see it cycling between among the 20 images.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, Was somebody else asking something?
No, I think that we're good, Joe.
Okay, so here is an example. I mentioned earlier that one of the advantages of doing things this way is you can keep the content creator from trying to add CSS files to the data and potentially screwing it up, or making, getting away from site standards and so forth. So this is an example, and let me see if I won't try and go this right now, but this is a too sexy application, and this is a too sexy application. So basically, in this one, you specify an image, the first line, first bit of content, and the second bit of content. And the fact that it's set up like this with two columns and the image over here and the two data items over here, the first one being uppercased in a certain font and black, and this uppercased in the same font being red, are all handled in the template. So the only thing that somebody has to do is go and edit this content item, type in this line, type in that line, and drag and drop this image into the content item, and they're done. There's nothing to screw up. Here is the second one where there's a quote and an attribution, and I think it's quote, name, affiliation. So they don't have to worry about this. They don't have to worry about putting the two dashes in here. They don't put the quote signs around the quote. They type in the quote, they type in the name, they type in the affiliation, and this is what they see on the screen. So I think there was a post on Facebook within the last week where I think Daniel Mettler said, "I can't believe people are still using the HTML module." And yeah, this is a perfect example of why you would not do that. In this case, the client wanted to have, I think, if I remember correctly, 5 different things that they could put on a page. And so I did each one in too sexy content, and there's nothing more to do there. So let's see, I think I said all of this. This first part is done where the content types are an image, a title, a second title, and text. And that's what the visualizer looks like. It's done in token format. So this was done in the days before Bootstrap.
Joe.
Yeah.
I think that Ryan has a question for you. Ryan, do you want to chime in?
Yeah, it was actually one of the questions that I brought for the meeting tonight, and it ties in well to what Joe's kind of talking about now. Helps drive home his point, and then also asks a further question. So he's kind of describing how you have to think about your content a little differently, and as a developer, you have to place some more restrictions on the editor, on the person who's going to be making edits and changes, to stop them, or at least make it difficult for them to accidentally start putting in style-related colors, font sizes, things like that, into the data they're entering. Because if it's really structured content and it's intended to be used anywhere, and you don't know what it's going to look like, then if someone decides to make something green and bold and 32 pixels high, it's going to be that way across the board, and you can't override that, or it's more difficult to override it when you're using a structured content. So my question to Joe is...
It's actually not more difficult to override it because these are styles that appear on each page separately. So if you want to override something on a particular page, that's a perfect example of when you would use the page CSS file. And so you can override these styles just on that particular page.
No, what I was meaning is when they enter the data. So if they were to put in a title or in a paragraph and highlight something and make it bold and green, that would be defeating some of the power of it being structured content if they're doing it in the actual data item. So I was going to ask Joe what he does. Does he choose to say, okay, people only have text fields for entering text information? What about when they want to be able to put in paragraph breaks and include a picture inside of a paragraph? If you give them an HTML-related field, do you put more restrictions on it? Do you just caution the person to realize what they're doing? How do you normally approach that?
Well, if you on the screen, but can you read where I'm pointing the mouse at?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. This field called text is actually, the type is DNN WYSIWYG. So
right.
that one will actually accept HTML formatted stuff, and you can enter it with a text editor just like you edit any other module. It's using the DNN text editor. So if you put restrictions on the text editor as to what they can actually do, you can do that. They will not be able to do that in these other places unless they really know what they're doing. I think you can actually stick in tags in strings and they will get interpreted correctly. But you tell them they can only, as part of the education process, you tell them you can only put text in here. And if you do anything else, it will break. Hopefully not too many people will test that theory. But you can certainly put restrictions on it. And I can't remember.
So it sounds like more education. Yeah, it sounds like more education of the person who's editing is your approach, so that they do header tags, H1, H2, and paragraph, but they never color it or choose a font for it or things like that.
Yeah, and like I said, I can't remember if you can if there is a script HTML formatting out of this text. It's probably in there somewhere. But my experience has been that if you tell them the only thing you type in here is text, it's okay. I could if I wanted to be more restrictive on that, a string is a string, but I could also specify a multi-line text box in this, so they can, they can type in a paragraph, or they can, since it's a multi-line text box, they can, essentially format multiple paragraphs if that's what they wanted to do. But you tell them if you try and get tricky, bad stuff will happen.
Joe, but again, that WYSIWYG there is the full-blown HTML editor, correct?
This one is the full-blown DNN HTML editor, and it will come with whatever restrictions you put on it based on their.
I get it. Their user, their role, based on the role.
The tiny MCE editor is an option here, so I can say use that. Or as I said, you can say, this is a multi-line text box, with 50,000 lines, it will allow you to put in that text. Okay, so let me skip over that. This is another one, and yeah, this gets to Ryan's comment here. The notion was you can put in a title, which appears here, and you can put in your content, which appears here, and this is, again, they are allowed to do HTML editing, and they choose the fonts on this one. So again, you can structure the content, but you can also allow them to do more for knowledgeable editors. And here, this design was more to mimic the container rather than constrain what they could do. So this is not a DNN container, but this is a structure that's provided by sexy content over here. So there's the title, and there's the content, and there's some styling mostly associated with what would appear to be a DNN container, but isn't. Here's an example. If you go back to this, here is an example of putting an image on a page. For people who don't know what they're doing, that's not an easy thing to do. All they have to do is edit this module and drag and drop the image into the right place, save, and here it is on the screen. And one of the things that Too Sexy Content provides is you can do an image picker in the DNN file system if you want to. If you have the image on your computer desktop, when you're in edit mode, you can just drag and drop into here. This is a more complicated example where this is a list of job openings, and it includes a title. I think these are actually two separate pieces of the title: a description of the job opening, a location, date the job was posted, links to apply for the job, which takes you to another page that lets you upload your resume and some stuff, or click the share button. So again, this is your content item. Read more takes you to a page that has more detail on the job, but this is your content item. And there is a repeater in here that's showing everything. And actually both of these pages take you to different pages that are other same data but different templates, and the apply actually takes you to a page that has a form, and I don't remember what form module is being used here, but doing this in Razor Script allows you to pre-populate the form with data, about the job. I want to apply for this job, and et cetera, et cetera.
Joe, quick question. On that read more, as this is a list, and then you go to the details of that item, can that read more link? Can the link be friendly? The URL of that link, if we are looking to the details of that particular item, do you know anything about that?
the answer is yes. We'll look at something in a minute, and I'll show you something that's similar. And
Okay,
yes,
that's
yes,
fine.
it is a friend. Yes, it is a friendly link. By the way, as you're structuring your data, you could have. Okay, I see ellipses here. So that means I'm showing the first n characters of the job description, and the read more will take you a page that has the full thing. But you could have a teaser or a preview field and the full field. And one of the features in Too Sexy Content is when you set up the template for this display and the template for the display of a single item, when you click this link, Too Sexy Content will generate the links for you automatically. So this is the short view and then the detail view, and it will create the detail. You don't have to create a separate page for the detail view, but the detail view will be generated dynamically with a different template applied to it.
Okay.
That's a little. Okay, and this is an example of a slider. Earlier I mentioned the toolbar. This is a manifestation of the toolbar. So let me go to some examples. Oh, and where do I want to go? I think I want to go here. So here is that site that had the slider on it. And why is it not sliding? Maybe something has died. Okay, but by the way, this is a site that I converted to, this is DNN 9.1.1, and I converted this from WordPress. So this is a Too Sexy module. Each of these are Too Sexy apps. So the WordPress site had lots of flippy boxes on it. This is something else. This is a slider that's done in Too Sexy Content. This is another slider that's done in Too Sexy Content. So since I got the toolbars here, I can show you the content that goes with this this item here. And nothing is happening. Oh, there we go. So so here is the thing. This is content items. All of the type that goes into one of those flipping boxes. This and let's see. I should probably have done that slightly differently. Okay, so the content type for this flippy box I was having some connectivity issues earlier. Oh, Okay, that's not working. Let's. Oh, I think this is an earlier version of Too Sexy Content, and I think if I click that thing before the persona bar appears, something bad really happens. Let's see. Nope. Okay, never mind. Let's go to. Okay, this is the one that I showed you. The since I am in edit mode, I've got lots of gunk appearing here. It still appears here because this allows them to edit directly from the thing. Whoops. So the job title consists of the title, a posted a location, category, ID, summary, and description. And for this particular item, nothing's going to work for me tonight. It's the Brinkman syndrome. So here is the once I've created the item, here is where I edit it. And will not save. And if I click the plus button, that allows me to add an item to this list. This allows me to edit it. This allows me to do some other things. And if I want to see the content items that are attached to this one, okay, I clicked the wrong thing. This is, okay, so, this toolbar goes with this image. This shows me all of the job descriptions that I have. And hopefully this one, no, getting a little confused because there's been a slight change. So we'll skip that. Why don't I here and ask if you have other questions or comments? Oh, let me show you one other thing. Okay, so this is a directory of consultants. Who wants to guess what on this page is a Too Sexy Content thing? Nobody? The answer
what was the
is,
question? What was the question, Joe?
what on this page is a Too Sexy module?
Whole page.
Actually, it's everything below this toolbar, the map, the table, etc. And maybe this one will be friendlier to me. I should. Yeah, so basically there is a content item that refers to a person or an organization, and there we go. Okay, so there is a content item for every person or organization that can appear on this list. And if I click here, I can edit. So there's a large number of fields that are associated with this person. I actually have two different map pages. One is for consultants and one is for organizations, that I can determine which people show up on which page by doing this. Here is the biography. Geocoding is done statically. Here, information about these people. So if I wait for the map to refresh, if I click on a tab, this is pulling a few fields out of the content item to display here. If I click on more details, and this is the answer to your question, Addison, about friendly URLs. This is the link to a details page that 2Sexy generates, and I apply another template to. Oh, I'm on the wrong. Never show anybody something on your development site, right?
Joe, so let me ask you a question.
Go ahead.
So, because here's the thing. Every time that Daniel Mettler, he writes a blog post, it makes me scared to touch to sex content, because he goes very deep in the weeds of this is this technology about this and that, and I usually get scared. I get scared and I keep walking away and walking away and walking away. So
that's why I started. That's why I made this entire presentation, the kindergarten version of Daniel Mettler. We started with a simple content structure. It's an image, a template that says, put this image on the page. We added that to a list of images. And then we wrapped some jQuery around that, and we got a slider. There was no programming involved. It was just HTML. So let me go back to where I was. Click this, and when I click, don't worry about the blue stuff. That's administrative stuff. So if I log out, it looks more normal. But here is the hopefully friendly URL. And the next iteration of this, which is the part that wasn't working on the dev site yet, is to replace this by bin dash as.
Got it.
Or as. So yeah, this is friendly URL format, but I haven't gotten it quite to be entirely friendly yet. So, you know, pretty much all of this is done in HTML. If we want to, okay, go away. So if I get into edit mode, let me actually go back to this one. Yeah, when you get the full Daniel Mettler version, he's talking about data pipelines and filters and this and that and the other. This one actually uses the pipeline with filters. This is that page that had the map and the table on it. This is the template.
Got it.
That renders that page. Much of this has to do with interfacing it to Google Maps.
Got it.
But when you're designing it, there are essentially snippets for pretty much anything that's available to you, including the app, the content, the list, DNN objects, DNN user information, C# code templates, HTML snippets. And if you can't remember the format to insert a JavaScript, a script for a JavaScript file that's somewhere, you mouse over it, you see what it is. If you click here, it inserts it where you are over here.
So again, so I should not be scared. I should embrace too sexy content. Is that what you're saying?
Take something simple and see how you would do it in too sexy content. By the way, when you install too sexy content, it offers let me get to the right place. Here we go. It offers to install sample apps, which I don't have any installed here. Oh, well, let me, since we were looking at the map, this is the map. This is where you define your data content items. This is where you define the views. There's other stuff over here. This gets you to the query pipeline, where you can define a query. So basically, you're taking the data that would normally come to the module and do some things. Let's not talk about that one, because that's actually not necessary. But you're right. There is a lot of stuff here, but you can do a lot of stuff without learning all that other stuff.
Good, awesome. Joe, I want to be mindful of everybody's time. Is there anything else that you want to do before we wrap up?
That was actually the end of it. Yeah. So if there are no questions, I'm good.
Yeah, Joe, just a quick one for me. Where you can access some of the edit screens from view mode. I was just wondering,
Yeah.
does that respect the like DNN module and page permissions, or is that implemented in a different type of manner?
No, it does. Let me log out. And all of those blue things have disappeared.
Okay. If you were,
there's also a built-in role where you can essentially give someone limited administrative rights to modules, but reserve the full power to people in the super user category.
Gotcha. Is that through like the built-in kind of module settings permissions tab, or is that somewhere else?
No, it creates a role.
Okay.
When you install the module, it creates a role that is called something like Too Sexy Editor or something. You know, none of us want our editors to be that sexy, but but yeah, and given everything that's in this module, I think you can probably create other. Well, I don't know, but there's the possibility of creating other roles that can give people different levels of permission, but I'm not sure about that.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Awesome. Anybody else? Anybody else has any question for Joe? Crickets. Okay. Joe, I'm going to bring the presentation to myself again. Again, great presentation, Joe. Thank you very much for, explaining in easy terms how to use TwoSex content. And again, sometimes I get scared about Daniel Matthews, but I have to think that he's writing for the developers that wants to expand their reach out there, and it's just he's not
Let me throw in a commercial here. If you go to the DNNhero.com website and you look for DNN creative tutorials, Andy Stevenson a couple of years ago did a wonderful set of tutorials on how you do this that I basically stole from in order to create this presentation. Start simple, add this, add that. And I think he did that back in the days before Too Sexy content was as advanced as it is now. So 45 minutes and you'll get a completely different perspective on how easy it is to use this thing.
I'm gonna check that one. I'm gonna check that site.
And if you need a subscription to DNN Hero, I've got a friend.
Okay. You know somebody?
Yeah, Clint Patterson. He'll get you to the right people.
As usual. Okay, yep. Joe, again, thank you very much. Thank you for the awesome presentation, Joe. I'm looking forward to share that with everyone. So, guys, that's really it. Questions, we have already discussed that. That's the wrap up here. Next month, we have already another presenter lined up. Just a quick reminder, I'm really looking forward to have someone else out there giving an extra pair of hands to help with TADUG.org website. It was great meeting all of you. Anything else before we depart? Anybody? Or can we go in peace?
Thanks, Joe.
1, 2, 3. Thank you very much, Joe. I'll talk to you guys in a month. And we're going to be talking. We're going to be having a presentation by Will Stroll. He will be talking about e-commerce in DNN and more specifically about hotcakes. So that's our next one in a month. see you on June 6th, if I'm not mistaken. Cheers, guys. Have a good night. Thank you very much.